And since it's number one, I'm going to call that item first and then call for the rest of the items. The reason for the consent calendar is the fact that the items that went through our committees were voted upon unanimously. And so that's why the consent calendar exists. But there's just one item, and that's item number one, ordinance 135, an ordinance authorizing the issuance pursuant to section 90.10 of the local finance law refunding bonds of the county of Nassau, New York, to be designated substantially public improvements refunding bonds and providing for other matter in relation thereto, and the payment of the bonds will be refunded thereby. Moved by legislator Nicolello, second by legislator Cabral. And who's here to speak on this item?
Good afternoon, Eric Norton, Deputy County Executive for Finance. The proposed refunding will provide the county with approximately $21 million of savings. It will provide savings of roughly $5.5 million a year for the first 4 years, which will be which NYFA has included as an item that they are accepting as part of the NYFA conform budget. And as people are aware, Congress is probably going to in the process of allowing counties to do advanced refunding bonds, so we have to get this done this year if we ever hope to get these savings. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Any questions from the legislators? Minority Leader.
Eric, this was an idea that was contemplated. It started its contemplation when?
We've been working with our various underwriters probably since late August. We didn't have enough details to include it in our proposed budget, so we had to show that there was possible savings in the multi-year plan. But we felt obviously any opportunity you have to get savings, even though we didn't have it in our proposed budget, that is something that the county should pursue.
No, we agree. I just was wondering why it wasn't a part of the county's 2018 proposal in September. But thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the legislators? Any public comment?
Yes.
Hold on.
Just real quick.
Legislator Reggie Wood.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I see here that it's being, the value savings of 5.4% approximately. So what is the difference between the bond rate, the original bond rate, and what we're getting here?
Good afternoon, Steve Conklin, Debt Manager. In terms of rates, there's two ways you can look at it. One is the coupon, which we pay to the bondholders, but sometimes that's higher than what the actual yield is. If you just give me a second on this, I'll get the numbers. And the numbers are changing, as we could constantly update them. But for the new bonds, the all-in cost, there's several different ways we look at it, is about 2.5% for the new bonds that we would be refunding. For the refunding bonds, which are the new ones.
So the prior bonds were approximately like over 6 or 7%? Is that what you're saying?
No, the coupons would have been, but the average would have been about 3.5%. I can get you the exact number on that, but it's significantly lower. But for the new bonds, it's about 2.5% yield.
So a 1% difference in interest is yielding this much savings, you believe?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, just one last question. Okay, and is when you're saying bonds, so we're purchasing a number of new bonds. It's not as if the whole lump sum is going in one process.
We're issuing new bonds, yes, refunding bonds. And the money will go into an escrow account to pay off the old bonds.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the legislators? Any public comment? I believe Ms. Murdock.
You believe right.
And I too am a believer, yes, me, Meredith Baldwin. My question has to do, and I'm glad that legislator Reggie Whitten at least brought up one part of it, but what exactly did we initially borrow these bonds to do, one? And two, if we borrowed this money, because a bond is borrowed money, why did we not complete the project? For example, the streetscaping in Uniondale that I've heard about for a number of years at this point, and other projects, as was brought up by my own residents from Baldwin. I mean, I don't understand, even that they can't get an approval for a grant that they've done all the paperwork for. Uniondale, the south of the Coliseum, cannot get their roads done, but we have an opportunity to save money on refunding borrowed money just so we can borrow more money for what projects that we are not seeing, particularly on the south shore of Nassau County. So could someone please, clear that up for me? Unless I'm just the only one that's confused, because I guess since all of you have the information back there, you might have more information. But could you kind of enlighten the rest of us who only have this brief synopsis about refunding bonds of the county to be designated substantially public improvement refunding bonds? If we haven't made the public improvements, why are we refunding them? Hello, and I really appreciate some answers.
Eric Norton is coming up to address
Okay,
your
I
question.
appreciate that.
Okay?
Pay too many taxes for crickets.
There. All right, so just to clarify, the fact that we are refunding the bonds, does that mean that the projects go away? The money still sits in those capital projects. What we're trying to do is save on the annual debt service for each of those projects. And these projects go as far back as 2007 and some as current as 2015. But the projects themselves do not go away. It's just that we're saving on the interest costs that we've borrowed before. Sort of like refinancing your home. You still have the money, but you have an opportunity now to pay less. That's the wise thing to do.
Right. So we're holding on to the money, and the residents are driving in unsafe streets with potholes and things of that nature. But we're holding on to that money, and we're saving on the debt for the money that we already borrowed. And to use the analogy of a home, we still have to pay that mortgage because after about a couple of months or so, you will get put out. So I'm just still trying to understand, what were these projects, maybe that's the specific question, what were these projects earmarked? Which projects were these that were holding on the money? Can someone answer that question? And that's all I wanted to say, unless somebody again up there wants to ask the questions.
Mr. Norton, can you answer that question? Do you have a list of those items that are put forth? I go back to 2007.
And 7. Right. There's a long list of projects, and I believe it's available for the public if they want that list of projects that we're refunding.
I do.
Okay?
Madam President.
Hold on 1 minute. Those of you who are interested in receiving a copy of those projects, please do yourself a very simple favor by contacting your legislator, and your legislator should make that list available to you.
Okay?
Should be public. Any other public comment? There being none.
Question.
Legislator Solange.
Just Mr. Norton, Mr. Kreisel, why has the county been overpaying for them for so long? Just trying to understand this. Since 2007, you're saying?
You were not overpaying for them. You got the best interest rate available at the time that you issued those bonds. And generally speaking, bonds are callable after a 10-year period, but there's also what we call an advanced refunding scenario, whereby when the interest rate environment is correct, such that you can issue new debt and still earn enough interest in the escrow to pay off the old bonds, you look at the timing of that, plus the cost to actually issue new bonds to see when it makes sense. It's a process that we go through constantly to review our outstanding debt to see when it's economically feasible to do this. We've come to this board probably every year with different refunding scenarios. We just did one last January. And this is the group that works at this current time period.
And we're choosing to act now because you're expecting Congress to act on this soon?
No, we had, as I stated to Legislator Abrahams, we have been looking at this particular series since August, and after we vet which projects actually make sense, working with our bond counsel, we come up with the list, and these are the ones that work. But the problem is that it now has become critical to do it now because of Congress pending actions.
And, but this has been economically feasible for a long time.
No. No, as I stated, we get proposals from underwriters throughout the year looking at our portfolio of bonds, and sometimes the savings may be 1%, 2%, which doesn't meet any reasonable thresholds from the state level or from our own internal levels. So now this group of bonds it works to get us this great amount of savings.
Understood. All right, thank you.
Okay, there'll be no other questions. Yes, Pearl.
Yes, the gentleman just stated, Legislator Abrahams, that he was working with you on this. Would contract B1116 be involved in this, contract B media? Is it on the list?
Pearl, I think maybe I've done not a great job explaining this to you, but I'll try again. B1116 doesn't require any bonding. Never did. I think I've explained that now multiple times. B1116 is a contract. It was bonded with in 2011. The proceeds of what we're talking about today have nothing to do with B11-16 at all.
Okay.
B11-16 is a contract that only the presiding officer can call. I've urged her, I've encouraged her to call it. If she does not call it, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about in refinancing today. Actually, Deputy County Executive Norton, it's my understanding we do these types of refinances quite frequently. So this is not uncommon practice. But in regards to B11-16, that is a contract. It has nothing to do with bonding. The bonding for that contract has already taken place 5 years ago. Has nothing to do with the bonding or refinance that we're talking about today. So I just want to make sure I'm clear that we're talking about two totally different things. And I think, Heidi, you might have mentioned, that contract comes up for consideration. It wouldn't be on the 18th. It would be on the 4th. It's a contract, so it comes up in our Rules Committee only. And so I would encourage you, I mean, it's our hope, obviously, the presiding officer would call it for the 4th. But if she does not call it for the 4th, it cannot appear on the 18th unless there's a special meeting of the Rules Committee meeting. So it's actually the next opportunity to be next Monday. Just to be clear, this point of clarification, correct?
And my next question, this refinance of the bonding, would it have any impact on our property taxes?
You're saying that the refinance, I'm sorry, the refinance of the bond would have
The
any impact?
bonding, yes. Would it have any sort of impact, if any, on our
I would
property
have
taxes?
Mr. Norton, I don't believe so, Mr. Norton. I mean, I would have someone. I think that what he's talking about, Pearl, come back for a second. I think what he's talking about, no, please, Eric. I think what he's referring to, obviously Congress is considering many different things which will impact your ability to be able to write off your local and your state taxes as it pertains to being able to get a federal refund. There are also measures that Congress is taking up in terms of refunding as well, and I'll let Eric explain those and elaborate a little bit more, but it's not pertaining to your taxes. But go ahead, Eric.
Yes, in terms of your taxes, to the extent that we're saving money, in this case $5.5 million for each of the 4 years, that means that instead of making other cuts or having to raise taxes, we've found a way to actually save the taxpayers money.
But Eric, explain what's happening in Congress, why you need to do this today.
Okay. Congress, the House of Reps actually put in a provision that actually stops the practice of advanced refundings. So that's why this is critical. And our bond counsels have stated that even though it may not be passed right now, the fact that it's out there, they cannot give us a clean opinion come January if that's still pending.
And that ability to remove the potential to do advanced refundings, does that have anything to do with for what's going on in regards to the House and the Senate as they contemplate revamping local and state, ability to write on local and state taxes in your.
It's a separate issue.
That's what I thought. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now there being no other, Meredith?
Knowledge is power. Okay, so now my question quickly is, since the request has been put out there on numerous occasions, particularly with regard to the streetscaping, and I'm sure there are a whole lot of other issues. I mean, let's be real. The members of the Rules Committee are also sitting behind that dais. So is the decision so that people, again, you all are getting paid. The people sitting behind you are getting paid. The majority of the people who hear this on stream are getting paid. We're the ones that are out here who are not getting paid, but we have to pay for all of this that's taking place here. So we need to have some semblance that our elected officials, those re-elected, etc., are actually hearing the voices of the public. Now, so I'm looking straight at you, presiding officer, because it starts with you, and I'm still trying to understand, for all of these other groups that may have issues, but you have seen and heard from the residents of Uniondale, and for those of us who are also impacted, because we have to drive through Uniondale to get to the Coliseum and to other places, are you going to be committed, as you're moving out, to actually put this agenda, this item, on the calendar or not? You know, just stop wasting our time and sitting there with your pleasant smile and just making it look like you're nodding and you're acknowledging what's being said, but you're not giving the taxpayers who are here, who are in the room, the satisfaction and the respect and the integrity of their position to say that you see this as a viable opportunity, when their representative is sitting there saying that he has asked you, he has encouraged you. I mean, what else does it take at this point when the voices have been heard in November? And for many people who will no longer be sitting up there, or for those who are coming to sit up there, there will be more voices. But we need to hear from our elected officials when it counts that you're going to do what you all say that you're going to do and deliver on the promises. That is a major thoroughfare. We've spent billions of dollars for a facility that the people in the local community can hardly get to because of the congestion and the conditions of their roads. So let's be honest. I agree at this point, now that I have more information with regard to this bonding process, I get it. But yes, I am letting my legislator know that I, as a member of the 5th Council District, I want to have a copy of those projects. But I am asking, I am requesting that the residents in my neighboring communities get their satisfaction of knowing that the streetscape is going to be on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On the item, item 1, ordinance 135.
Can I?
If it's not pertaining to the item, I'm sorry. And I was very
Respectful of Meredith, and I allowed her to speak even though it was not on the item. We know where you're coming from, Heidi, okay? We're well aware of the fact that this is something important to you and your community. Right now, we're talking about item 1 on the calendar, ordinance 135. And if there are no more comments regarding that particular ordinance from the legislators or the public, then I'm going to ask that we take a vote on the item.
Can you give me just 10 seconds? It'll take less time. I just want to make one suggestion, because you know the thing is...
You got 10 seconds.
Okay, one suggestion. The next meeting of the Rules Committee,
December 4th.
I know the date, but I really would like to see that meeting at the reflection bench outside that was installed to honor.
I don't know
Why
about
is it
December
funny?
4th.
If it's here, it's a part of this building. I would like a decision to be made at the reflection bench for Melvin Harris Jr.
10 seconds are over.
Okay, that's my suggestion. Okay, that way the playing field is level. Thank you.
Okay. Now for the item 1, ordinance 135, All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? It's unanimous, okay. Now, Frank, it's unanimous. Now for the consent calendar, I'm going to call all of the items which were vetted in committees. And I begin with item 2, ordinance 136, item 3, ordinance 137, item 4, ordinance 138, item 5, ordinance 139, item 6, ordinance 140, item 7, ordinance 141, item 8, ordinance 142, item 9, ordinance 143, item 10, ordinance 144, item 11, ordinance 145, item 12, ordinance, 146, item 13, ordinance 147, item 14, ordinance 148, item 15, ordinance 149, item 16, ordinance 150, item 17, ordinance 151, item 18, ordinance 152, item 19, ordinance 153, item 20, ordinance 154, item 21, ordinance 155, item 22, ordinance 156, item 23, ordinance 157, item 24, ordinance 158, okay. Item 25, ordinance 159, item 26, ordinance 160, item 27, ordinance 161, item 28, resolution 193, item 29, resolution 194, item 30, resolution 195, item 31, resolution 196, item 32, resolution 197, item 33, resolution 198, item 34, resolution 199, item 35, resolution 200, item 36, resolution 201, item 37, resolution 202, item 39, resolution 204, item 40, resolution 205, item 41, resolution 206, item 42, resolution 207, item 43, resolution 208, resolution 44, resolution 209, item 45, resolution 210, item 46, resolution 211, item 47, resolution 212, item 48, resolution 213, item 49, resolution 214, item 50, resolution 215, item 51, resolution 216, item 52, resolution 217, item 53, resolution 218, item 54, resolution 219, and I believe that's it, moved by, these items moved by legislator Nicolello, seconded by legislator Capel. Any further comment from the legislator? Okay, all those in favor of the items that we just called, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The items passed unanimously. And a motion to adjourn. Moved by legislator Rose Walker and seconded by legislator Laura Schiff. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are now adjourned. That was good.
Exactly.
Nothing ever works.